Welcome to the new sound of online radio. Welcome to the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network.
'Cause you make me feel like I've been locked out of heaven.
A mix of today's hits and hard-to-find favorites, combined with the most entertaining and intriguing talk anywhere. This is your sound. This is the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network at upnradio.com.
It's time for the Bonnie Sher Show, a whirlwind of wit, wisdom, celebrity, and the boomer life. With a little bit of this and a lot of that and so much more you don't want to miss, here's Bonnie.
Well, hello and welcome, new friends and old, from near and from far, and I do mean from far. I'm your host, Bonnie Sher. Oh, really? We're going to use this camera. Okay, I'm with you now. Me again. Yeah, Jarvis says I'm doing fine now. Okay, because we want to make Jarvis happy. He can turn me off anytime he wants. Anywho, I'm Bonnie. And I'm going to be your host through the world of entertainment, the great boomer generation, and of course, the community of type 1 diabetics. So I want to thank you for tuning in, and I invite you to call in and share your thoughts. You can call us at 1-323 I got it now. 843-2826. Peekaboo, Jarvis. Or you can always tweet the hashtag. That's BSHER Radio. Before we get this show on the road, I'd like to acknowledge jazz great Wayne Cobham for composing my super duper hero theme song. And of course, as I do every week, to thank and acknowledge Corey Bone of Crown and Anchor Jewelry. He allows me to wear his wonderful designs in exchange for this promotional mention. You can find him on Twitter or contact me and I'll put you together with him. Now, when we come back from this first break, we will be speaking with cardiologist extraordinaire Michael Farkouh.
Your life story is more than the things you do. It's a story built on the moments you make today and the impact you have on others. How big is your story going to be? Live your legend.
And welcome back. Welcome to Dr. Michael Farkouh. Say hello, Dr. Farkouh.
Hi to everyone out there. And Bonnie, it's great to be on your show.
Thank you so much for taking the time out of your very busy work week to spend some
My pleasure.
time. If anybody didn't read on Facebook or on Twitter, Dr. Farkouh is a cardiologist, and although we are speaking with him today primarily about type 1 diabetics with cardiac issues, I think that, well, everybody has a heart. Kind of doesn't matter if it's sugar-free. So we may be, our conversation today is not just for and about diabetics, although It's a main focus around here, as you well know. So, what's happening in Heartland these days?
Well, you know, Bonnie, we've realized over many years now that, especially with the stressors on our healthcare system, that we can prevent heart disease for the most part. And we're really focusing on young people and on prevention of heart disease. But on the same token, we are also focusing on new strategies like regenerative heart disease, stem cell therapies, and new ways to intervene on the heart without operating on people and more non-invasive strategies. So I think we're focusing on both ends of the spectrum. But for the most part, we realize that prevention is the way to go. And so we're going to really talk about preventing your first event. And if you've had an event, a cardiac event or a procedure, preventing you from having future events. And I think that's where the theme should be, I think, for today, 2017.
Absolutely. I agree with that. All right, let's just roll this back a little bit. Pretty much I think almost goes without saying is in terms of a type 1 or a type 2, and the importance of keeping the glucose as normal as possible. What else contributes? Is there anything else when you say prevention? So from a diabetic's point of view, all right, so, I mean, we're supposed to keep those numbers in check and look to do that anyway. What is it about the diabetic? And I remember you once using a term called a diabetic heart, that it was thicker, like a chunky bar. Kind of what goes into play there? I mean, I know I walked around jaunty jolly with diabetes for 30 years until I went on stage one night and I had my first cardiac incident 3/4 of the way through my show. I think I'll never sing another Sondheim song. But what can we do to help prevent? I mean, exercise? I mean, is there any other, where do we go? How do we do our best to work along with you as a cardiologist so that we both reach that same understanding and hopefully a better path that doesn't result in a quadruple bypass at 47? So.
Right. No, Bonnie, you bring a lot to the table here to discuss, and I'll try to be brief. Heart disease is really in two parts. One is the muscle itself, which is the pumping chamber. And when the pumping chamber fails, that is not a good thing for us because we can develop what is known as heart failure. I don't like to use the word failure, it's heart dysfunction. But that is often caused in two ways. And I'll talk about the two pathways. The first, of course, is the development of coronary artery disease, where the arteries that supply blood to the heart become diseased. And that process is multifactorial. It has two factors to it. One is the accumulation of cholesterol in the arteries and the formation of plaque in the arteries, that when it becomes soft and vulnerable, they can rupture those plaques acutely or suddenly and can cause a heart attack. And that process is involved, the process of hardening of the arteries, which can be either soft hardening or a real hardening of the arteries, is caused by inflammation of the artery and the accumulation of cholesterol, and the two together. We think that the role of blood glucose elevation, or dysglycemia as we call it, really plays on the inflammatory component of it. So the arteries become inflamed, vulnerable, and they are vulnerable for these plaques, these soft areas of cholesterol accumulation to rupture and cause a heart attack. And when that happens, the heart gets damaged and there's dysfunction involved. If we get to it early enough and can bypass, as we did in your case, or put a stent in the case of other diabetic patients, we can prevent that damage from occurring. The second element we've learned more in the last 10 years is that the diabetic heart, as I described it many years ago to you, is the hallmark of the diabetic heart is stiffness of the pump. So although the pump can pump well, and it may be normal in its pumping action, there's abnormalities of filling of the heart. So the heart is too stiff, and we need to develop new therapies and new drugs to reduce the stiffness of the heart. And recently in type 2 diabetics, the SGLT2 drugs, namely empagliflozin, has been shown to reduce the incidence of heart failure related to this pumping filling issue, independent of its effect on coronary artery disease. So you have two components, the coronary artery disease and the filling abnormalities or the stiffness of the heart, and that is the hallmark of the diabetic heart. And to prevent it, well, we can lower cholesterol. Most diabetics over the age of 55 or even they're 45 are on cholesterol lowering agents, whether they're type 1 or type 2, because the lower the LDL or bad cholesterol as we call it, the less likely it is that a cholesterol will accumulate in your arteries. And the second big thing that we work on is blood pressure. We like the blood pressure in a diabetic patient to be about 130 or over 80 or less, although there is some data that 140 over 90 is still okay, and there's a big debate about that. But clearly, lower blood pressure is better to a certain degree. If we start to lower the blood pressure too much, then we see an increase in events again. It's a U-shaped curve. So optimal blood pressure control and lowering of bad or LDL cholesterol are really the two other components to blood glucose control that help us to prevent heart disease.
Amazing. I mean, just in the past, 18 years, to be hearing this. I don't really remember cholesterol being an issue. I remember having some hyperlipidemia.
Yep.
But that was like back in my 20s, and then that seemed to be okay. But again, I want to say to our viewers and listeners, you don't have to be a type 1 diabetic or a type 2 to have a heart attack. What anybody who has a heart, okay, this is for you.
Absolutely. This is for them. Bonnie, I want to talk about diet and exercise. It's very important to follow a good diet. We know that in the type 1s. The type 2s are known for having bad diets and being non-adherent to good dieting. And I think it's very important that you're on the right diet, and it's very individualized. So that you have to work with a dietitian and your cultural background and the types of cooking you like and the types of food you like to find the right balance there. Exercise, vitally important. We talk about 300 minutes of exercise in a week. That's a lot of time, a lot of commitment. But I tell people to exercise daily and to do 20, 30 minutes daily. And it's very important, whatever walking or whatever exercise you like to do.
That was my next question.
Yeah. And so many have joined gyms. Many people have equipment. Probably we overdo that and overstress that. A good solid walk, a brisk walk, is as effective as most other exercise regimes. But remember that the diet and exercise and lifestyle are a very good marker of people who are going to do well on medications because they're more likely to be compliant. Indeed. They're more likely to visit their doctors and get their blood checked for glucose and cholesterol and get their blood pressure checked. So we use diet and exercise really as a way to discipline the patients because it's something they can do on their own.
Which I think is vitally important. I mean, what other, here you're asking your patients, work with me, as opposed to just being, say, okay, this is what you should,
Absolutely. And know your numbers. I work both in New York and in Toronto. And in Canada, we know that our patients don't know their numbers. New Yorkers love numbers, so they know their A1C, and they know their LDL, and they know their blood pressure. And I always stress that. It's very important. Again, Bonnie, that we're partners in this. As I tell patients, you own the bus. You can ask me to help drive it, but at the end of the day, the bus is you, and you need to take care of yourself. And that's why I like to see folks that are adhering to good diets and exercise. It means that they're partners with us.
Well, I think that it works well all the way around. I mean,
Yeah.
I've had a very long and great, bumpy, but ultimately fantastic relationship with our mutual friend Andy Drexler. Um, and I think that even in him having introduced me to you and bringing you in on my case, because we both remember there were some other things going on at the same time where I didn't feel that I got that kind of support. I was getting a lot of this, finger wagging, and you never shook a finger at me once. You
Yeah.
may have wanted to, but
Well, Bonnie, I wanna say something about Andy because you mentioned Andy. Andy Drexler is one of maybe the finest diabetologist, expert in type 1 in the world. He's very, very committed to his patients, uses a holistic approach, has a multidisciplinary team, and we owe a lot to Andy because I think he's advanced our field more than almost anyone I know, bringing in cardiologists, ophthalmologists, podiatrists, orthopedic people, and he has been very open to treating the whole diabetic patient. And, that is something that we've learned over the years was the right approach. And so we have very fond memories of working with Andy in New York, and you're very lucky to have him in Los Angeles.
absolutely. Why do you think I moved back? I mean,
I don't blame you.
had to do that. Anyway, Dr. Farkouh, hold that thought, and we're going to take a break. And when we return, I'd like to know more about, or my listeners and I would like to know more about what we can do prophylactically so that we're not at the point that I got to, which was shock. What do you mean?
No,
When you told me I needed a stress test, I remember saying to you, stress? Have you met my mother? So I still thought it was a big joke till they called me 10 minutes later and told me I flunked. So hang on, and we'll be right back to you.
Look forward to it.
Since when did experience become something to hide? I say we own it. Lose all that negativity. Just let it go. It's just bad energy. Oh, and lose those terrible black balloons they give you on your 50th. What's up with that?
Hey, we hear you. That's why our members love AARP the magazine. It celebrates you with fun and provocative content, from lifestyle and entertainment to in-depth reporting. And it's just one of the great benefits of membership.
If you don't think this is right for me when you think AARP, then you don't know ARP. Get to know us at aarp.org/possibilities.
To be at peace with myself is the most prominent thing, and I am at peace with myself. I didn't deal this deck, I'm just playing the game. That's all. That's it. Meals on Wheels has given me a mode of freedom that I wouldn't have otherwise. Been making sure they get the nutrition that I need, and it's a balanced meal. My name is Maurice McGriff. America, let's do lunch.
Drop off a hot meal and say hello. Volunteer by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
You are tuned into the Bonnie Sher Show, Boomer Life, and we have the pleasure of chatting with Dr. Michael Farkouh. Join the conversation. Call 1-323-843-2826 or tweet the hashtag #BShareRadio. So let's pick up where we left off before. Are you with me, Dr. Farkouh? Yes, there you are.
I am. I'm with you.
Oh, good. So we were talking about, compliance. I think they need to find a new, better word, because already compliance makes me feel like I'm in jail. I know it's all semantics, but the other one that bothers, the other term, is when people refer to the date of their diagnosis with diabetes as their die-aversary. It just is unsettling to me. I don't know that I would have a party to celebrate that anyway, but
Yeah, Bonnie, I really truly believe that if we treat the patients right and the patients are partners with us and, as you say, are really committed to the best health possible, we can really have great outcomes on the cardiovascular side and even on the other complication front. It's a different era. Let me talk about type 1s separately for just a moment.
Okay.
Tight blood glucose control can be associated and is associated with better cardiovascular endpoints. We don't see that same trend yet. We have not proven it yet in type 2 diabetics. So one of the issues that individualizes care is when someone's type 1, yes, we need to work on the LDL cholesterol, the blood pressure, and all of that is very similar as it is in non-diabetic patients. But the focus on glucose control, and we've enforced this with you and all of our type 1 patients, very, very important. So the type 1 today, a young type 1 who's 18 years old and facing a life ahead of them, can expect a fairly good life expectancy from the cardiovascular perspective. And I have actually done angiograms on people who have 50 years of type 1 diabetes, and they have completely clean coronary arteries. So those that can achieve excellent control of glycemia and of the other risk factors, the future is bright. And that's a message to parents and most importantly to patients. For type 2 diabetics who develop it later in life, although we have adolescents develop type 2 diabetes now, it really is a longer, harder course on the cardiovascular front. Many people will face the development of coronary artery disease as we keep them alive longer. And we have better medications now. The SGLT2 drugs, the GLP-1 agonists, particularly liraglutide, have shown quite a lot of promise in the last 2 years. So we've had the past 2 years a lot of good developments in glycemic control, anti-diabetic therapy. And as you know, I've spent a lot of my time focusing on the treatment of coronary disease, whether it's stenting or bypass surgery. And let me only say that across the board, we're seeing superiority of bypass surgery. So when you have significant coronary artery disease develop, we are more and more undergoing bypass surgery. Although it's more extensive, more invasive, the outcomes are excellent. And we have seen that bypass surgery has been superior to stenting. So I really worry in our diabetic patients, a lot of stenting going on, and the outcomes are not as good as they are for bypass, and you're a living example of that.
18 years later.
Exactly. And you've done well.
Well, because I had a good teacher, Dr. Farkouh.
Well, I hope so.
And you had such a nice way of presenting it too. I couldn't hate you like I hated everybody else.
Yeah, don't forget, I was molded by Andy and the group. My first job was in the diabetes center at Mount Sinai in New York City, and I learned from a lot of the masters, Zach Bloomgarden and Andy and Stan Mirsky and many others. And so I grew up with the diabetes community and provided cardiac consultation. And then I went on to teach cardiologists about it in the last 15 years.
Well, now I know what you've been busy doing since I saw you last.
Yeah.
I try and do the same thing, but nobody listens to me. Well, 2, 3 people.
Yeah, they don't always listen, but I haven't stopped talking. I haven't stopped the message.
Okay, so your assignment, if you choose to accept it, because Andy will beat me blue, if you don't call and say, hey, he only made me promise not to read his phone number off on air. I told him I would do my best.
I really look forward to hearing from anybody. They can reach out to me.
That's my next question. How did you know that? How can people stay in touch and follow you and those things?
I have 2 email addresses, one in the U.S. and one in Canada. It's my first name dot last name, Michael.Farkouh, and it's Farkouh. In Canada, it's at UHN, University Health Network, uhn.ca. And in New York, it's at MSSM, Mount Sinai School of Medicine, mssm.edu. And Bonnie, I'll be happy to provide that to anyone. Look forward to hearing from folks. I often do when I appear from time to time on shows like this, and always look forward to hearing from folks and physicians alike.
Terrific. Thank you so very much for taking your time to chat with us today. And we'll talk to you soon. And I'll see you next week. Bye.
Thank you. I look forward to it. Thank you so much.
Me too. Well, he's been a real part, a very important part of my team. And I can tell you from experience, if you have questions about cardiac care or what you can and might be doing, Dr. Farkouh is a great resource for you. Now, as we go to break, I'd like to acknowledge the very important work of the Diabetes Research Institute and encourage you, please, to support their efforts. There are millions of children and adults with diabetes, and we all dream of the same thing, and that is a cure for this devastating disease. And we dream of living without painful finger sticks, insulin injections, and of course the risks of life-threatening complications, as we've just discussed. Scientists at the Diabetes Research Institute are working hard, very hard, to make that dream become a reality by finding a biological cure. They're advancing research to patients, and they're changing lives. Please visit them online at diabetesresearch.org. Okay, then our song of the day is coming up next.
Type 1 diabetes can be living in anyone.
Type 1 diabetes is when your pancreas doesn't produce insulin. It's not caused by your diet. It's not caused by anything you did.
Type 1 diabetes can be very serious.
Blindness, amputation.
Learn more about type 1 diabetes.
Help support JDRF finding a cure.
T1D looks like my brother.
T1D looks like a friend.
Type 1 diabetes looks like me.
It's a good day for singing a song, and it's a good day for moving along. Yes, it's a good day, how could anything go wrong? A good day from morning till night. And it's a good day for shining your shoes, and it's a good day for losing the blues. Everything to gain and nothing to lose, 'cause it's a good day from morning till night. I said to the sun, good morning, sun, rise and shine today. You know you gotta get going if you're gonna make a showing, and you got the right away. 'Cause it's a good day for paying your bills, and it's a good day for curing your ills. So take a deep breath and throw away your pills, 'cause it's a good day from morning till night. I said to the sun, good morning, sun, rise and shine today. You know you gotta get going if you're gonna make a showing, and you got the right away. 'Cause it's a good day for paying your bills, it's a good day for curing your ills. So take a deep breath and throw away your pills. 'Cause 'cause it's a good day. 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 From morning till
And that was Marianne Marengelos singing It's a Good Day as only she can. We love her around here. So, welcome back to the Bonnie Sher Show. And my co-host for this segment is Chris Pickering, who is a member of the T1D community from the great state of Oklahoma. Welcome, Chris.
Bonnie, how are you?
I'm good. And how you doing? So tell me what's going on and tell me a little bit about your story. And my second question is, what type 1 diabetes issue would you like to bring to our community today?
Well, my story began when I was 3 years old, and like many diabetics, it's been a roller coaster. There's been great ups, there's been great downs, there's been tremendous highs and tremendous lows. But over the course of that time, it's made me stronger than I could have ever imagined. And as far as an issue to bring to the table today is just the awareness with the general public and getting the general public more involved in what we face on a daily basis and how to better it for somebody who may be diagnosed in the future.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's important work to be doing, especially right in the middle of the country where it can just spread out. I want to hasten to add that Chris is calling into us from the great state of Oklahoma. So how are you going about this? What kind of plans? I know that. Tell us a little bit, please, about your organization, Beatty's Brothers, or Beatty's Bros. Sorry about that. Say half a word. You get charged twice. Explain how you do it, why you wanted to do it, and how somebody else can be doing similar things in their states. Let's spread the wealth here.
And absolutely. The whole idea came about because, many years ago, there was no true diabetes community. And until the advent of social media, there was no way to truly connect other than you might see somebody taking a shot out in public and talk to them, or you saw somebody with an insulin pump and you're like, that's a diabetic, I've got to talk to them. But outside of that, there was no way to truly connect. So with social media being as prevalent as it is in today's society, it gave us a great way to connect with people worldwide dealing with the same issues we are. But we want to bring that back out of the internet environment and the social media environment and bring it to the real life scenarios. So we're utilizing our social media to put together events. And with the events that we're doing, we want the diabetic community heavily involved in them, but we want the general public involved as well. So we're trying to intermingle the two groups for that future. So if there is somebody down the road that is diagnosed, they've already got a hand into the community, and they're not walking into this blindly like so many of us have, or our families have.
Absolutely. I know that prior to social media, I've been a T1, it'll be 50 years in March. I think I knew one other type 1.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, between people being willing to change that photograph and show themselves in that blue light, and say, I am a diabetic. And all of a sudden there's a very inclusion. Oh, yeah, it's like finding an old family member that you don't owe money to. It's just, well, you get it, because I've always maintained that it takes a one to know a one. And so I think what you're doing is phenomenal. Tell me this. How can people reach out to you and follow you and learn more about the activities of Beatty's Bros? And perhaps they'll take it on either under your wing or independently in other states and other cities to really make this flourish. I think it's a fantastic idea, because believe it or not everybody is on Facebook. It's tough for me to believe, but it's true. Yeah, you can say, on Instagram, please come to my diabetes party. But just to be able to have that back and forthness. Oh, when you get this, how do you handle that? This has never happened to me before. Or, gee, I found the best way to cut those carbs and yet get the nutritional value that I need. So from this little girl sitting here in California, please keep us informed of what you're doing and what we can do. And I think that's a great start. And I thank you so much for reaching out to me in the first place, Chris. Which brings up another point for me. Any of my other T1s who are listening, or maybe you're listening and a T1 with something that they would like to share, it's very easy to be my co-host. You have to write me an email, and you send it to Bonnie at bonniesher.com, and we make it happen. And I want to thank you, Chris, personally for everything. And it's phenomenal, the work you're doing, and it's such a selfless act, but so self-fulfilling, I believe, at the same time, to know that we can take control of something. And you're certainly the guy to have been doing this. So,
well, I appreciate that very much.
So tell me about, you have another event coming up, do you not?
We do. Both the Beatty's Bros and the Beatty's Babe, which is our female counterpart to the Bros, we are putting together a golf tournament here in Oklahoma City. And our goal is, with the golf club that we are using is actually a national franchise, and our goal is to take these tournaments nationwide over the next couple years.
That's fabulous. Well, okay, you've got to promise to keep me informed. Let me know what's going on so that we can let everybody know how they can become involved with you as well. Also, for people who might not be in the book, that would be the Facebook, not the checkbook. Sometimes it's the same thing, though. I don't know. How can people follow you? How can they learn more about the Beatty's Bros and Babes and get in touch with you? Questions, ideas, kind of a mutual flow, don't you know?
Yeah, absolutely. We've tried to make everything very simple. All of our social media accounts are just at the Beatty's Bros, and it's just diabetes, take off the dia, and that's all. Just put the Beatty's in there, Bros, and you're good to go. And we pop up on, if you do any search, even on Google now, we're one of the top. We pop up at the top with our Facebook page. You can send us a message on Facebook. Our email is just thebeattysbros@gmail.com. We kept that simple. And we want this idea to go nationwide and eventually worldwide. And we have no issue working with, if they want to start their own group, we've got plenty of ideas to get things up and started and how you can create a community where you're at. And we would love to be involved in others getting upstarts, because that's what it's all about. It's about the community. It's not about the name of the organization. It's about being Type 1 and being together.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, Chris, thank you so much for being with me today. And you're promising to keep me apprised of what's going on. And I thank you very much for being with us today. You take good care.
Thank you, Bonnie.
I think that's a great idea. I really love that. Okay, so we did that. I said that. I did that already. Next up. I remember where I am now. This is Boomer News. Today's Boomer News comes to us from the nonprofit organization Public Citizen. I'm talking about gluten. And then views from my soapbox. Back in 60 seconds.
For 3 million Americans with celiac disease, eating gluten, a protein in wheat, barley, and rye, can make them sick. Even small amounts of gluten in many products on grocery shelves can trigger painful and debilitating symptoms. Most food labels identify products containing gluten, but one widely used type of product doesn't: over-the-counter and prescription drugs. That's right. Manufacturers sometimes use gluten in medications as an inactive ingredient. But drug labels usually don't indicate the use of gluten. To avoid gluten in medication, celiac patients must spend time and effort researching medications online and calling manufacturers. That is not a realistic option. Who can fix this problem? The U.S. Food and Drug Administration, which has long been aware of the issue. In 2008, a New York man with celiac disease urged the agency to ban gluten in medications, or at least to require they be labeled. The petition attracted 73 public comments, but the FDA did not act. In 2011, the FDA received another 138 comments. Still, the FDA did not act. Now lawyers at Public Citizen are representing the man in a lawsuit. The goal? To get the FDA to act on his request. Share the facts at www.citizen.org/pressroom.
Okay, then now we come to the point of the show where I get to express my views from my soapbox, which is pretty much my take on who got it right and who really should kind of be ashamed of themselves. So I would like to start by giving a shout out to Senator Susan Collins from the great state of Maine. Senator Collins has been a great friend to the diabetics. She recently invited over 160 young delegates who participated in a hearing in Washington. And this is something which she chaired, Senator Collins did, on how diabetes affects people of all ages and their families. So this was the 9th consecutive Children's Congress that Senator Collins has chaired. The hearing focused on the importance of research to prevent, treat, and ultimately cure type 1 diabetes. Senator Collins is the co-chair and founder of the Senate Diabetes Caucus. Brava. I say brava. Thank you so much. Now for my shout down. As that old song from Bye Bye Birdie spoke, kids, I don't know what's wrong with these kids today. Well, here's another application. Back in the 60s and 70s, and actually it was the Salon that reported on this. We were known, we had the music festivals. We were kind of known for that. And well, things have really changed. There was a time that inconvenience wasn't necessarily the root evil here. As opposed to very recently, there was a music festival that was supposed to be held in the Bahamas. It was called the Fry Festival, and this opulent music event was promised with name acts and gourmet food and luxury accommodations and Kendall Jenner and Bella Hadid. Something happened and it was canceled at the very last minute. Because the millennials apparently didn't have all the creature comforts that they wanted. Well, I don't remember we had a whole lot of creature comforts either, but so stand up, don't be wusses, and enjoy what we have. Quit complaining. We have enough to complain about. And that's pretty much that song. But before I say goodbye, I really want to thank our guests today, Dr. Michael Farkouh and Chris Pickering of Beatty's Bros. And I hope you'll return next week for another 50-minute trip through the world of entertainment, through the great boomer generation, and of course, we, the community of type 1 diabetics. Until then, please visit BonnieSher.com. Follow the #1 Bonnie Sher on Twitter and like the Bonnie Sings Lena, Lena, Facebook fan page. Many of you are aware of the very special role that Sammy Davis Jr. had in my career. He was my mentor, and much more importantly, or certainly equally as importantly, he was my friend. So I end every show the same way, sort of Carol Burnett style, with a wink and a kiss to you, Mr. D. Have a great week. See you next week.